The Galactic Council chamber fell silent as Ambassador Desiree Chen stepped onto the crystalline platform. Around her, representatives from 47 species watched with eyes, sensors, and appendages that defied human comprehension. The air recyclers hummed softly, processing atmospheres suitable for creatures who breathed methane, argon, and things that had no name in any Earth language. "You wish to know what happened to the Krithax Empire," Desiree said, her voice steady and cold. "You wish to understand why humanity now controls 17 sectors of space that once belonged to them. Very well. But understand this. You asked for the truth." Across the chamber, James Rodriguez, humanity's military liaison, stood with his arms crossed. His decorated uniform bore the scars of vacuum exposure and plasma burns, each mark a testament to battles the Council had only heard whispers about. He watched Desiree with the patience of a soldier who had seen too much and forgotten too little. Desiree activated the holographic display. A star map materialized above the assembly, showing the Krithax Empire at its height, a sprawling dominion of 12,000 worlds, each one subjugated through overwhelming military might. For 3,000 years, they had been the Council's enforcers, the species other civilizations feared to challenge. "The Krithax made a simple mistake," Desiree continued. "They assumed humans were like every other species they had encountered. When we refused to surrender our colony on New Terra, they sent a fleet of 500 warships. Industry-standard intimidation. It had worked on 40 species before us." The hologram shifted, showing a blue-green world surrounded by massive angular vessels, each one bristling with weapons capable of glassing continents. Then came the human response, a scattered collection of mining ships, cargo haulers, and a single outdated military frigate. "They destroyed our frigate in the opening salvo," Desiree said. 300 souls lost in an instant. Then they broadcast their ultimatum: surrender or watch New Terra burn. They gave us 48 hours. A Vrellan counselor, her translucent body pulsing with bioluminescent concern, spoke up. "But the records show that New Terra survived. How did a mining colony defeat a Krithax battle fleet?" James stepped forward, his boots echoing on the crystalline floor. "We didn't defeat them at New Terra," he said, his voice carrying the weight of command. "We destroyed them everywhere else." The hologram zoomed out, showing the vast expanse of Krithax space. Then, like stars going nova, red markers began appearing across their territory. Dozens, hundreds, thousands. "Humans have a saying," Desiree explained. "Don't start fights, but always finish them." The Krithax thought the war would be fought at New Terra. They were wrong. While their fleet prepared to bombard our colony, humanity struck at every military installation, supply depot, and shipyard in their empire simultaneously. The Council erupted in confused chatter. The Thaxian representative, a crystalline being of pure thought, projected disbelief into the shared consciousness. "Impossible. Your species had barely achieved faster-than-light travel. You lacked the numbers, the logistics, the ruthlessness," James interrupted. "You're right about our technology. We were centuries behind the Krithax in ship design and weaponry. So we adapted, we learned, we improvised." He gestured to the hologram where human ships appeared, ugly asymmetric vessels that looked more like industrial accidents than military craft. "We turned cargo ships into missile platforms. Mining drones became autonomous weapons. Our civilians became soldiers because they understood something the Krithax never could." "And what was that?" asked the Vrellan counselor. "That when you threaten to exterminate a human world," Desiree said quietly, "you don't just make enemies of that world's defenders. You make enemies of every human who ever loved someone on that world, every parent with a child there, every person with a friend, a lover, a dream connected to that colony." The hologram showed the timeline of the war. 48 hours after the Krithax ultimatum, their empire began to collapse. Communication networks went dark, supply lines severed, command structures decapitated by precision strikes carried out by humans who had studied Krithax systems during decades of supposed peace. "We had been preparing," James admitted. "Every human who visited Krithax space, every trade delegation, every cultural exchange, we were learning, mapping, planning. Not because we wanted war, but because we recognized predators when we saw them." The council members shifted uncomfortably. They had all benefited from Krithax enforcement at some point. Desiree continued. "The Krithax expected a siege. They got a decapitation strike across 12,000 worlds simultaneously. We used their own FTL communication network against them, injecting viruses that turned their ships' targeting systems into weapons against their own fleets. We dropped kinetic impactors from slower-than-light trajectories they never monitored. We turned their conquered species against them by offering something the Krithax never had. What did you offer? The Thaxian asked. Freedom, Desiree said simply. And vengeance. The hologram showed the final days of the war. Uprising after uprising across Krithax space. Human strike teams coordinating with resistance movements on 1,000 worlds. The great empire crumbling not from external invasion, but from internal dissolution. Within 6 standard months, the Krithax Empire ceased to exist, James said. Their military was shattered, their government dissolved, their species scattered to refugee colonies where they live under council supervision. And yes, some of you consider this act genocidal, but let me be absolutely clear. Humanity offered surrender terms 17 times during the conflict. The Krithax refused each one. They believed their superiority was destiny. Desiree's expression softened slightly. We didn't exterminate the Krithax people. We eliminated the Krithax Empire. Their civilians live peacefully now on worlds where they cannot threaten others. Their warriors were given the choice to surrender or fight to the end. Most chose poorly. The chamber remained silent as the implications settled over the council. Finally, the Vrellan counselor spoke, her voice trembling. You brought us here to warn us. No, Desiree corrected. We brought you here to inform you. Humanity doesn't issue warnings or threats. We believe in peace and cooperation, in the principles that founded this council. But we also believe in one immutable truth. She looked at each representative in turn, her gaze unflinching. Never threaten human worlds. Never assume our tolerance is weakness. Never believe that because we choose peace we are incapable of war. The Krithax learned this lesson at the cost of their empire. James added, We're not here to dominate the galaxy. We're here to ensure that no species ever again has the power to casually threaten the extermination of billions. The Krithax did that for 3,000 years, and you all looked away because it was convenient. That era is over. The council meeting concluded with no votes taken, no resolutions passed. But as the representatives filed out, they carried with them a new understanding. Humanity had announced itself to the galaxy not with a whisper or a shout, but with the complete dismantling of the most powerful military empire in known space. Desiree and James walked together through the station's observation deck, watching stars wheel slowly beyond the transparent alloy. Do you think they understood? Desiree asked. James considered the question. They understood that we're dangerous. Whether they understand we prefer peace, that remains to be seen. The Krithax chose annihilation over coexistence, Desiree said softly. I hope we never have to make anyone else learn that lesson. In the darkness between stars, humanity's fleets maintained their watch, not as conquerors but as guardians of a simple principle. Peaceful coexistence was always the first choice. But it was never the only choice. The galaxy would remember what happened to the last species that challenged humans, and in that memory perhaps lay the foundation for a lasting peace.